Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here, and as you can see, got kind of a different little video for everyone today. I used to do a lot more outdoor videos, and I think it's been like over a year since I've done one. But when I saw Brandon Bookshelf did the philosophy of reading tag, I figured this would be kind of a good one. It's gonna be a long, kind of rambly, just opinion, like 20 question like opinions on different topics on, you know, the reading process and stuff like that. So I figured, you know, it'd be kind of a good snowshoe type of tag video. Unfortunately, it didn't snow up here in northern Maine enough really to go snowshoeing until like the third week of December or something like that. Pretty crazy, you know. People say climate change isn't real, but you shouldn't wait that long in northern Maine to go snowshoeing. But anyways, it's gonna be a long enough video. Let's just go ahead and get started. All right, question number 1: what is more important, character, plot, or message? And for me, especially with fiction, character is definitely my favorite of the three. I feel like you might have a really cool story, concept, and plot and all that kind of stuff, but if your characters are just little cardboard cutouts, you know, it's not going to be fun, it's not going to be exciting, it's still going to suck just because the characters are just going to make it that way. Whereas if the reverse was true, say you have really, really good characters, but, you know, they happen to be just stuck in a cardboard box for the whole plot, you know, it still might turn out halfway okay because the characters can somehow, you know, rise to the occasion and make it pretty cool, I think, in a way. With nonfiction, it's a little different. I think probably message is the most important. I mean, I guess I don't know I don't think you really read nonfiction for the plot elements and that sort of thing, but yeah, hopefully my snowshoes aren't too loud as well. Most of my microphones here for the GoPro are picking them up like pretty loud, so hopefully it's not too bad. I tried a couple different ones, but they're all going but I do apologize for that. And also leave a comment down below if you like these kinds of videos, you know, just on the trails behind my house or in parks and stuff, these outdoorsy ones. Northern Maine, I think they're, you know, gotta take advantage of one of the reasons why I live up here, I guess. Why? All right, question number 2. Should one read books on ideas or opinions they disagree with? And I would say generally yes. It's good to be exposed to different ideas, different concepts. You might change your mind a little bit, or even if you don't fully get convinced by the other's point of view or anything like that, you might find like more of a middle ground, if that makes sort of sense, or change your stance at least somewhat. I think one case where it's not really a good idea is if the other person is not really writing in good faith, and it's just kind of being contrarian on purpose. Like for example, one of the books I DNF'd, one of the few ones I've DNF'd was like a history book, or it was claiming to be a history book, about the arguments why Troy, basically the siege of Troy, like the Trojan, you know, from Homer's epics and stuff, was actually in the British Isles, and most of Greek history actually took place in England and stuff. And I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like to me, it's not like worth wasting time with something just like super silly like that. Number 3, as tech advances, what do you think will be the role of books? I actually think we've pretty much almost hit that kind of that part of the historical process. I mean, was it the average American reads like 1.5 books a year or something like that? It's pretty low. So I think we're already kind of at the point where books are sort of like a nostalgic hobby in a way. I don't think that really changes like the role in the sense of you're never going to get a good story, like a full story from like little sound bites or articles or anything like that. I mean, even movies, like, you know, that's been around since basically movies came out. You know, what's better, movies or books, or film or books? And I don't think it's ever really been rightly argued. You know, films are just like completely superior to books, so they'll always have a place, especially in storytelling. And I think with nonfiction too, you're never gonna be able to convey like some really good deep ideas or technical ideas in like, you know, a 5-page or 10-page, 20-page article as compared to like, you know, a full-sized book. So I think there'll always be like kind of a use for it for conveying stories and information in that sense. Question number 4: how important are summaries, review, and art in your book choosing? I would say probably the one actually what I use the most is probably reviews, like just the little snippets and little blurbs on the back of books, because if it's an author I've read before and I like, especially in like nonfiction circles, you know, if there's a certain like academic or a certain, you know, like person that I already read and they really like the book, you know, I generally like, it might not always pan out, but generally that's a good indicator that I probably will also like the book. I don't know, it's just kind of fun seeing like a lot of like nonfiction authors that you already read, like also reading nonfiction and, you know, basically promoting books. So that's kind of what I use the most. If I've never heard of a book, I definitely do judge a book by its cover sometimes. I do like some nonfiction books when they actually take the time to make the book, you know, look appealing and nice and all that sort of stuff, not make it seem always so academic and dry and stuffy and whatnot. Summaries, I guess, generally with nonfiction, I guess the summary is not like as important in a sense, as long as you kind of like know, as long as I know what the book is roughly about beforehand. So I would say reviews are probably the one I go with the most. Okay, question number 5. Should one ever skim or scan a book? I guess my question would be, to each their own, obviously. But if you're going to skim or scan a book, what are you, like, reading it for? Because if it's for enjoyment, I don't really know what the purpose of scanning the book would be. Whether it's, you know, fiction or whatever, and you're trying to enjoy the book, you're skimming and scanning it, you're probably going to be missing out stuff you could be, you know, enjoying about it. With nonfiction, I would say, yeah, if there's like certain topics in the book, especially like if it's like an essay collection or more like a kind of like academic monograph type thing, you know, if there are certain topics in the book that you don't need to know, you don't care to know about, then I guess skipping around would be fine. And I guess same thing sort of if you're reading for school, you know, if you get what you need out of it, and then that's good. But yeah, if you're picking up like a book literally just solely to like learn about a topic, yeah, the question would be like, yeah, why are you skipping around if you're trying to like learn new things, because you might be skipping stuff. All right, should reading always be enjoyable? That one's a pretty solid no. To be honest, like a lot of the books I read about nature and stuff are pretty gloom and doom. You know, they might have little vignettes at the end, like, you know, trying to put a positive spin on things, and so it's not so depressing. But, you know, the vast majority of my nature books are, you know, we suck in this species or that ecosystem or whatever is basically getting ravaged or destroyed or annihilated, and we're basically doing a terrible job with it. So, but it's still important to kind of learn about the plights of, you know, different issues and topics or animals or people groups and stuff that are, you know, in rough shape and stuff, so you can find ways to, like, you know, improve their situation or do what you can do to help and that kind of stuff. So yeah, reading doesn't always have to be, like, it doesn't need to be enjoyable. Granted, I still think, in a way, even if they're not happy books, right, a lot of these nature books still are enjoyable for me to read because I, like, learn from them, if that makes a lot of sense. But it doesn't necessarily mean, like, I guess in the conventional sense, they're not, you know, quote unquote enjoyable. I love how I tried to do air quotes, but I got my hands full. That was a total flop. Question number 7. Is it important to be well read? I don't know. I can't, like I said, I only watched like 1 or 2 other videos of this because I purposely didn't want to like have my own like opinions like kind of influence too much or whatever. But I don't know. I'm going to actually say no, it's not really that important to be well read. Only because, I guess with anecdotal evidence with myself, I've known a lot of people that are, you know, incredibly smart, incredibly capable of doing things and whatever, and, you know, they don't give enough about reading, you know, and, you know, they're good people and they can get all sorts of stuff like accomplished and whatever. So I would say in the big scheme of things, it's not necessarily important to be well read. I'd say more importantly than being necessarily just like well read would be being able to like critically think for yourself, and maybe for a lot of people being well read kind of like helps that along. But as long as you can, like I said, critically think about the different perspectives of an issue and that sort of thing, then it's not necessarily imperative that you be, you know, well versed in like different books and things of that nature. Number 8. What is your book buying process? I will say 98% of the time when I go into a bookstore, and like most of the time it's a used bookstore, I have no book in mind that I'm actually like going for or anything like that. I just like to peruse the different sections or whatever and just find books that I think I will like, if that makes sense. So really there's not really a process to it. It's just kind of like searching around and stuff like that, to be honest, as I navigate through some of these sticks and things. I'll say when I buy books used online, I would say like 90% of my books are used secondhand. But yeah, if I go online, generally that's when I go for like a specific title that I'm going for, and I like check eBay or Better World Books and stuff like that. But yeah, when I'm like book, quote unquote book shopping, I don't always really have like any strategy. I just like to like look around and treasure hunt, if that makes sense. All right. What is your reading process? Well, I'm not 100% sure what Brandon's asking here. But my reading process, generally I have a nature book going and one history book going, which are like my main genres. And then usually I have one like audiobook going. I generally don't listen to more than one audiobook at a time, but physical books I used to be a lot worse. I used to have like, 4, 5, or 6 books going. In a sense, I like it because if you're like mood reading, or if you're a mood reader, you can always like find something that you're kind of enjoying, like at the moment. If you read numerous of books, as you can see, the animal tracks. Woohoo! Anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, if you're mood reading or a mood reader, the more books you have going, the better the chances are you're going to actually find something that you want to read at the moment. But yeah, usually I have, like I said, one nature, one history, and one audiobook going. And I always keep, whoa! And that was my first fall of the day. That was a flop. Whoa. Alright, apologize for that. Got tripped up here on this branch that was under the snow a little bit. That's, it would have been smart for me to like kind of break the trail first. As you can see, the first time out here. Anyways, what was I talking about? I think I was talking about, let's see, my reading process. Yeah, basically the gist of it. Usually got a nature book, history book going, one audio book, and then usually I also have one book kind of by my bedside at night. That's usually like the one I read the slowest, just because I fall asleep and have to reread it part of the time. But yeah. Alright, let's see, halfway. Oh, no, I got one more than halfway. How do you use what you read? Well, with nonfiction, I try to just learn more about a lot of the nature books. I like try to implement like, identification, stuff like that with like the field guides. That's a pretty obvious one. But even just the more general nature books, it's so I can like talk and argue with people about climate change and that sort of thing. Like, my whole like in-law family and even like my family and stuff are pretty like climate change deniers and that sort of thing. It just bugs me for some reason. So I like to have like all these arguments against them, although I think that's probably not very effective and whatnot in the big scheme of things. But that's what I do like to sort of like use it for. And with the history books, what I like to do is find different characters and people from history that I enjoy or like or admire and stuff like that, and kind of like emulate some of their, like, whether it's like their work ethic or some of their like values and stuff, or points of view and seeing things certain ways, and kind of like implementing it in my life as well to a certain extent. So that's what I use the books I read for. Alright, question 11. If you could download a book to your brain, would you still read? The answer to that, actually, I would probably argue no. I personally probably wouldn't, if there's not really a downside or caveat to doing so. Like, it's not necessarily like the reading process that like, really gets me going or anything like that, to be honest. And if I can, download it in like 1 second or whatever and get the whole value of the book, I probably would. Just because too, I have a lot of other hobbies. I like to do a lot of outdoorsy things like that, woodworking, trying to like build and paint miniatures for tabletop gaming and stuff. And a lot of those are pretty time intensive as well. So, to be honest, reading just naturally takes up a lot of time. So, yeah, I think I would forgo that. Still like learn the information and then be able to have more time dedicated to my other hobbies. Alright, 12. What are your views on rereading a book? I don't reread too much occasionally. There's like The Hobbit, I usually reread once every like year or two. I guess most nonfiction works I don't reread for the most part. I sometimes go back to them, like to like reread about like a specific incident or topic or something, but I almost never really fully reread history book. Usually I'll just like get another book on that topic and kind of be able to like compare and contrast the books. Let's see. 13. What makes a book good? Let's see. I would say a book is good if after you finished or while you're reading, It makes you think, or think critically about an issue or a topic or an incident or some sort of situation. Even if it's fiction, if it makes you think about like a certain point of view or a different person's like plight, so you're like more empathetic or something like that. So as long as you're like thinking about something related to the book, like while you're not actually reading it, I think that's what makes a book good, because it means it's like you're just dwelling in your mind and that sort of thing. Number 14. What makes a book bad? I guess with nonfiction, if it's like completely wrong, maybe wrong's too hard of a word, but just completely just not correct. Like there, I guess this is like a little tiny nitpicky thing, but in nonfiction, I see a lot of nonfiction uses footnotes, right? So like if you want to read more about like how they got like a certain fact or something, right, they'll put the little end note, and then you go in the back of the book and find it. And what a lot of them do is they'll have like their like little talking point, their like little point of interest, and what they'll do is things that aren't controversial or pretty mundane, they'll cite like a ton of sources for it, and then they'll get to like kind of a controversial topic that they like or they're trying to like point out or whatever, and then they don't cite anything, like making it seem like it's like not controversial and stuff. That does annoy me. I mean, that's not necessarily what makes a book bad. That's just a bad thing in nonfiction that I can't stand. But I guess a book that's bad is one that after you've read it and you actually, took the time to read it, and then you can't remember it like a week later because it had like no impact on like your thinking or anything. So I guess like looking back on a book, if you literally can't remember anything about it, I guess that would be a bad book. But I could be wrong on that, because like I said, I don't really read a lot of fiction anymore, and not, like none of like the fiction books like I've ever read, except a few maybe. Like I have like any idea like what happened. So all right, as we're getting out there, all right, question number 15. How do you feel about not finishing a book? I personally don't DNF a whole lot of books, though that's because I take quite a bit of time, maybe not quite a bit of time, but I usually take the time to like research the book a little bit beforehand, whether it's like the topic or like, the blurbs from like other authors I know and stuff like that. So I generally have a good gist of, what the book is going to be about beforehand. And with nonfiction, that's a little bit easier than, say, fiction. But yeah, so generally, I take the time to kind of like look into a book first, and then I'll know if I, like, beforehand, I'm already pretty sure I'm going to like it. Though if it's, like I said, there's been a handful, if they're just absolute terrible or they're trash, yeah, I DNF. I'm like, life's too short to be like miserable, like reading like a sucky book, basically. If it's not going to make you happy in like any way, shape, or form or help you out, there's no point in doing it. All right. See, we'll do some questions like this. All right. How do you feel? Oh, no, we did that one. 16. Should the author's personal life matter at all? I'm kind of on the fence about this one, about like, separating art from the artist and everything like that. I would say, I'm not 100% sure how I would go about this. I would probably lean towards not separating the art from the artist, in a sense, unless the artist obviously is purposely portraying a view that's like, obviously like antithetical to their own views, and it's like obvious. That's a little different. But if, the author is pretty questionable on like certain things, then, chances are subconsciously, I think they're going to like express some kind of questionable things as well in the artwork, if that makes sense, whether that's writing or like film or what have you. But like I said, you still have to be able to, take certain things with like a grain of salt and whatever. So I would say maybe like 60-40 on not separating the art from the artist, as I'm like contemplating how to go across this like branch. Don't know if I can lift my leg up quite that high in the snowshoes. Well, let's see what happens. Woo! As I'm going to try and do number 17 at the same time. Don't think it's going to go well. If you could only read one genre for the rest of the time, what would it be? That's pretty easy for me. It's either nature or history, and I'd probably go with nature, just because there's so much like in the world that I still haven't read or seen or heard about. Like even like on my radar, there's probably so much stuff that would like wow me right now if you just like showed me a picture of it or something. As I knocked my snowshoe kind of like off. Wah wah wah. Oh, can I fix it with one foot? Yeah, I did. Wow, it's a Christmas miracle. All right. Yeah, so I've definitely picked nature, I'd say. Yeah, that's a pretty easy one for me. Let's see. Do you ever read a book without knowing about it? I mean, I guess if I go to like a used bookstore, there might be like some books that I might not never heard. But generally with nonfiction, like I said, if I read the back and I've not heard of any of the people like summarizing it or giving little blurbs or snippets about, I almost like actually be intrigued at this point, just because like all of like the history and nature circles really aren't super huge. So like all the big names kind of get thrown around like all the time, if that makes sense. But yeah, I've definitely picked up books that I've not like heard about before. But like I said, generally with nonfiction, you can kind of tell like what's going to be inside of it. And it does flop sometimes. It's like a super dry like monograph type work when you didn't think it was or something. But yeah, I'd say that's probably like maybe 1 out of 5 times it's something like that. But that's kind of the fun too when you go like used book shopping. I'm not gonna know every book in this like store that has like 50,000 books or whatever. 19. What author, genre, series, or culture can you just not get into and why? And this one's gonna be kind of. I don't know if I've talked about it on the channel or not. And I love history. History is like I said, it used to be my favorite. Now it's kind of like tied with nature, I guess you'd say. It's my favorite genres, but yeah. With history, ancient Egypt basically does nothing for me. And it just, all the people like Egyptology is like its own subject in like colleges and stuff. And people are like, why do you not like ancient Egypt out of like everything? Like I love ancient history, I love the Bronze Age and stuff, but it's just Egypt does nothing for me. Like I don't like reading about it. I even remember taking like a class in college and Egypt was like half the class and I was like like half the time. But I'd honestly, there's not really like any good reasons because it's an ancient culture that's been gone for thousands of years. But I don't know, like I think subconsciously I'm just like they had it like a lot easier than like ancient Sumer did. At the same time, like the Nile floods pretty regularly and helps them out, and it's seen as like a beneficent thing. In Sumer, like the river gods are just like inherently chaotic and could be evil, and they're out to get you if you don't placate them and stuff. And super irregular flooding is like horrible. Plus like Egypt's natural defenses, like with the Sahara Desert, not many like organized kingdoms like to their to the west, plus like that narrow like the Arabian Peninsula is like a choke point on the east, and then seafaring like until the literal sea peoples at the end of the Bronze Age, people really couldn't do like amphibious like army assaults. So they had a pretty, I don't want to say easy, because obviously like anyone living 4,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago had it pretty rough. But I mean, compared to like Mesopotamia, I'm always just like they had it easier, and everyone like loves them for it and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't make a lot of sense, so don't listen to anything I just said for the past like 2 minutes. And lastly, do you think everybody should read? I don't think everyone needs to read. Like I said, there are a lot of people that can critically think and do things on their own and whatnot, and do just are very successful like in their own like spheres of influence and all that kind of stuff. Without really reading, so they don't need to. I think everybody should read just because I think it's actually a fun, enjoyable hobby. And I think for the majority of people, it helps. It would help people get exposed to a lot of things. Just because like where I live now, I live in the middle of the woods, as you can kind of like like see and stuff. I live in a very rural bubble, basically. But I grew up in urban Florida for like 10 or 11 years. So like kind of the culture shock of like moving from like I said, like an urban Floridian city to here, just the difference in people, like a lot of people that have like never like left like the state I'm in and stuff, like they have a really skewed perspective of even just what the United States is, let alone like the whole world or a global picture of everything. So yeah, I think everybody should read, but not necessarily everyone needs to read. That that was probably a cop-out, but anyways, this video has been going on long enough. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know, like I said, if you like these kind of like nature videos. Let me know if I need to change something with the snowshoe sound. I know it is like a little loud. I was trying to like take breaks and walk slow and stuff like that. But yeah, let me know what you think of all this stuff. I'll leave Brandon's original video down below. Definitely go check out. And let me know if you're going to do the philosophy of reading tag. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, I haven't done too many. I say that I just did like 1 or 2, but I haven't done them for about a year, well, close to a year. I think it's just kind of a good way to get like, so you guys know kind of where I stand on like a lot of books and bookish kind of reading topics and things like that. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out my Etsy shop, like I said, with the woodworking, everything like that, Instagram, Twitter, all that kind of good stuff. And always remember, however you like to read, read victoriously.